My name is Dean Adone. I am the coordinator of school safety at York School District 1. That's a good one. Well, you might be able to tell from my accent, it's slightly different than Mr. Queen's. I am not from the area. I'm from New Jersey. I retired from a 26-year law enforcement career and moved down here about a year and a half ago. And so with my previous job, there was a lot of crossover. Obviously my job was safety for 26 years, but in a different capacity, but we had a lot of interaction with our school district. One thing that I'm really encouraged with here early on in my career here is the relationship with the police department and a lot of the other partners is strong. And I was on the other side of that where I was from, where from the police side, we had a very strong relationship with the school district. And I can tell you that as far as safety goes with the schools, obviously there's a lot more concerns for school safety nowadays than there was when I grew up and many of us grew up. But having the relationship with the police department and being able to share information freely and kind of get in front of things before something bad happens is huge. And if the police department and school district do not have that type of relationship, a lot of times information that could and should be shared is not. So the relationships here that I've already seen in my short time are impressive, and I feel like that's one of the reasons that the school district works the way it does. I think behind the scenes, what people don't realize is there's a lot of work done all the way from the classroom level up to the district level. And that is really, there's things that are being done now that were not done years ago, things called behavioral threat assessments. That's where, if a student is having issues, maybe at home or at school, things are being identified at an earlier phase and some intervention is taking place. There's a lot of training that never happened before. What I'm trying to do is instill some of my knowledge from my experience and some of the things that we're trained on over all my years of law enforcement, so that some of these behaviors that maybe would have never triggered any response years ago are now starting to be identified, and we're collecting data on things like this all the time. So really, I think it's really training and being really knowing your class, knowing your students, knowing your district. There's obviously physical designs that we've improved on. When I went to school, you could just walk in the front door of any school. Now we have, you have to get buzzed in to get into the secure area. There's usually a lobby area that's secure that does not give you access to the building. There's someone at every building that's going to speak to you and try to understand what your business is before you enter. There's a lot of enhancements physically that we've done, but I think really the physical part is important, but I think the biggest thing that we've gotten better at is identifying students when they're having problems and steering them back on the right path. Yeah, mental health, yeah, and even just if it, because there's kind of a stigma with that too. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a mental health disorder or even intervention with mental health. It can just be a teacher or a coach that knows a student that, knows that they're starting to, maybe disengage from the group, isolate themselves, not be a participant in, the class activities that they were. Maybe they had a big group of friends, but now they're eating lunch alone. There's things like that maybe don't even require, maybe it just honestly needs someone to check on them and see how things are going at home. Like, one thing I've learned is you can look at a house from the street. It could be a real nice fancy house and you have no idea what's going on inside that house. The people that see them and know them the most a lot of times during the school year are the teachers. They're the ones that are on the front line. They're the ones that see them every day. So I think really just knowing your class, knowing your students, and giving them an opportunity to speak to you is a big way we can kind of curb some of this violence. Yeah, so for one thing, I was impressed right away. Coming from the north, I think a lot of times, I think the impression is that we have more tax revenue up there. We have more resources, and we're going to do more with more, if that's what people think. I actually think coming down here, I'm very impressed with the safety and security measures that were already in place. So this school district is in a really good place to start with. Obviously, there's always things you can improve on, and there's things we've identified, and maybe there's just things that weren't being able to be focused on before my position was created. But for the most part, what I would say is, number one, there's a lot of emphasis on safety in this school district, all the way from the board, down, and them even creating my position shows that they are serious about it. And bringing me in from the outside, again, not being from this area, I think they maybe wanted a fresh set of eyes on things to kind of just take a look. And I will say, I've been impressed. I think there's a lot of really good things already going on here. And the biggest thing I could tell you is that the people in this district care. They care about the students, they care about safety, and they're doing everything they can every day to make a safe environment for the students to learn here. So communication, I think, is the biggest thing. I think it's important in a lot of areas, but I think parents need to communicate with teachers when something's going on, and they need to also accept communication sometimes from teachers, even if it's not positive. I've seen it everywhere where parents are kind of turned off when you start telling them things that are going on that maybe is negative on their child, but that can also be an indication of something that everybody's missing if you just ignore it. So I think open communication with parents. These days, you have to be on top of things. You got to check cell phones. You got to check browser history. You got to see what apps they're on. You got to see who they're communicating with online. Because a lot of this stuff that's happening now is happening on apps that people think are completely safe. If you do a very, very brief Google search, you can see that a lot of very, very popular games that kids can play on their phones and obviously online in a game system are being used to recruit kids into things that they have no understanding of and commit terrible acts on, violence on themselves, on other people, and just being mean in general to other students. So I think you really got to be, you can't just watch and expect things to be good these days. You got to be proactive in your parenting and know what your kids are ingesting. Number one, if we have an emergency, and we just had an incident last week where we had to respond to a school, the easiest way for us to get the information out right away is to put it out over our radios. And we have multiple channels. Obviously, we could speak for the whole district. We could speak to each individual school when we get on scene. But getting the message out immediately, still with all the technology we have these days, still the quickest way to do that is through a radio. From having a background in law enforcement for 26 years, your radio is the most important piece of equipment you carry. You train on all your other devices, all these over the years, but really, if you don't have a radio and you can't get help when you need it, and you can't relay the information that you have to put out to other officers to keep everybody else safe, you have nothing. So since I've been here, the radio's been excellent, and anytime there's been an issue, it's been handled very, very quickly. Another great feature is, the emergency button. The red button there we could push, and it'll automatically know whose radio it is and that there's a distress signal, and then others can start trying to, locate you and get to you, assist you. So it's another great safety feature.